the Palace of Speed. The chaos early on in this race. Welcome, one and all, to race 4, if I'm not actually, no, I believe race 5 of season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour from Suzuka, if I'm not mistaken. So, Adam's reporting to me that I'm right. So, my name is Alex Andersen. I'm joined in the commentary booth by Randall, McGrew with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck. And welcome to Suzuka. Last time we were here, I believe it was a couple seasons ago, and it was a really entertaining race, but it ended up with a Joshua Soto runaway after the pit stops at this iconic Suzuka International Racing Course in Randall. I believe your first time here for a Suzuka race in the Spec-5 World Tour. So what are you expecting from this race?
I really don't know what to expect. These guys are very, very quick. They know how to race. The Suzuka is a driver's track, so it's definitely going to bring out the best in some drivers. I expect we're going to see a lot of really close racing, especially up front. That big, long front straightaway is going to play a huge part in keeping people in contact. So if you're fast at one part of the track, you may have trouble breaking away due to the long straights around here.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where it being a driver's track is really negated just by the fact of how slow these Miatas are. Down these, you could pull out whatever kind of gap you want, but as soon as you get to one of these straightaways, that slipstream is going to bring everybody right back together no matter what you do. So we have to just watch out for that all over this racetrack. And as we swiftly move through qualifying, Randall, I want to see how accurate your pick call might be. So, who do you think is going to line it up on pole for this race?
We do. Who do I think is going to take pole? Well, I'm looking at that big 9.7K Robert Hartley. Gotta be a favorite for the pole around here. Though we saw a very, very quick practice time from Scott Keane, but right now, Mitchell Peak has got this points lead. and he's going to need to have a good race to keep that away from Josh Soto.
Yeah, and he has a really nice points lead there for how close these races have been there with 283 points. And then Joshua Soto is in second with 275. And that was a pretty big gap, but there is, again, a pretty big gap in the open class standings right now as Andrew Gilliland leads by 19 points over Andrew Kosick, and Jerry DiPiero in third, about 41 points back from Kosick. So this is really a fight between the 50 and the 16 car. And as we haven't had much open class starters so far this season, I reckon that gap between them might only just continue to grow here as the open class races get more and more spread out. But I can assure you the racing will be just as good as any other series.
Yeah, that open class keeps getting smaller and smaller, but the races are just keep getting more exciting. So I hope in the next season or two they do a rebalance and maybe bring that that open class back open a little bit more and see it get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, definitely as the pro class gears up for the 5th race of the season. It's been, I thought, Adam, you told me I was right when I said 5th at the start of the stream, but apparently it's the 4th. Yeah, no, I'm checking the schedule. It's the 4th race of the season. I can't do math. But it is the 4th race of the season, and as the pro class field gears up for said 4th race of the season, we've had some pretty close battles, i.e. last week at the Monza combined circuit, as well as Spa and pretty much every other race on the calendar, those being Road Atlanta. Actually, I keep thinking it's the 5th race of the season. I thought there was 2 more races, but it was just Road Atlanta that we've also traveled to in this series. And as the pro class gears up for this race, I reckon these straights are going to make this race very interesting, especially heading into that final chicane. It's a long straightaway into the final chicane, and then it's a sweeping full throttle corner down the front straightaway as we're on board with Robert Hartley at the moment. He's heading into 130R, one of the most treacherous corners on this racetrack, and that curb right there that you're seeing Robert Hartley just drove to the right of, that curb, last time we came here, we saw drivers having a lot of issues with that curb. I remember seeing Joshua Soto leading the pack at one point. Actually, I don't even remember if Joshua Soto won that race, but he was leading the pack at one point, and he spun around while leading in 130R, and it was a whole situation, everybody just scrambling to get around him. So you got to be careful going through that high-speed full throttle corner.
And we see Robert Hartley now taking turn 1. He pitches the car in before he lets off and gets on the brakes, lines it up for a nice entry into turn 2. Really slow there through turn 2 and brings it all the way out to the outside, using all the track available as he makes his way into the snake. These long flowing S's are possibly the most iconic piece of this track, and definitely take every ounce of skill to get right. Robert's doing a really good job through here, keeping it nice and tight. You want to take the shortest line possible in these cars. They don't have a whole lot of power, so running wide doesn't really help them too much. He comes out of the S's, this long sweeping left-hander that leads to the Degner curves. So want to try to straighten it out as much as possible, keep it to the inside, and line up this first corner. A bit of a downshift there and a brake, get onto that curb, and then through Degner 2, get all the way over on that curb. You can hit it pretty well in these cars. Use that exit curb to your advantage. And then you're going to want to take a nice late apex here to keep the car over to the right for the big hairpin on the left. And you'll see a number of different lines here. We saw Hartley there, just good to the inside. You can also take a bit of a karting line through there and just run the middle and keep your momentum up. These cars, the tighter line's probably faster. And now just going to follow the curve to the right around as they approach the spoon curve. I'm going to keep the car on the right. Going to have an early apex here. Let the car drift back out and then wrangle it back. And you want to get close to this curb and get right there on that white line. You don't want to hit that curb because it'll load up the front end and cause you to oversteer. And you want to get back to that throttle as early as possible because a big uphill run towards 130R, long full throttle section, a good chance to maybe make an overtake. Set up your car on the inside for this very fast sweeping corner. Like Alex mentioned, took out a lot of cars last time they were here, so they're going to need to be careful the first time through here. Saw him touch the curb a little bit and unsettle the car. You want to get there right on the white line and not too much more, but now he comes to the Castillo Triangle, and you're going to see these cars really eating these curves. using every bit of track that they can there to bring the car down through the final curve and across the start-finish line to complete a lap.
And I tell you what, that chicane on the final lap of this race after 45 minutes of hard-fought racing, that chicane is going to be a nightmare no matter what position you are in. I mean, more so for the leaders, because, I mean, even if, whether you're in first, second, third, fourth, fifth, if you're up in that main pack, you know somebody in your pack is going to make a dive bomb move into that chicane. And if you're a typical racing driver that is scared of chicanes like I am, you know that that probably won't end very well. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers manage that chicane in racing conditions. As we're currently looking at Jordy Fike, not normal to see him this far down the order. Currently running in, currently positioned or qualified rather in P16 at the moment. And it looks like Ray Lombardi, they're up to 11th. Mitchell Peak currently sits on provisional pole with a 224.322. Car in second is Scott Keane with a 224.344, only about 12 thousandths behind Mitchell. So everybody's just trying to set their fastest laps as they're still, as most of the field is still on lap 2 of their 4 given laps. So they just have to just try and manage their cars and just try and use their laps wisely and just make sure that they can get themselves as far up the grid as they want, because track position, especially through these S's on this opening lap, is going to matter.
That's right. It's going to be very important. You can find yourself losing a lot of time if you're caught on in the wrong part of the track coming into the S's. You don't want to be side by side through there. And as we just saw, the 112 car making its way through, it looked pretty tidy, and that's normally a good sign. If it looks tidy through that section, then it's going to be fast. If you see a lot of sliding around, it may look really quick, but you're typically giving up a lot of time. So Lombardi looking very, very smooth through the S's. It should have a good lap here.
Yeah, definitely just needs to keep it smooth, as now we're looking Eugenio Polici, the Italian, didn't have a very good performance in his hometown race last season. This driver always just seems to have so much pace, runs up in the front of the field, is really in contention for it, and then at some point or another, things just tend to go wrong for this number 17, and he always just ends up having to run around on a recovery race. So Jerry DiPiero currently on pole in the open class lead. I'm waiting for Adam's little message with the SDK thing, but really just we're waiting for an upswing of a performance from that number 7 car. He's shown a lot of pace, Eugenio Polici has, but just hasn't got the results to show for it at all.
And sometimes if it wasn't for bad luck, drivers wouldn't have any luck at all. So maybe we'll get one swinging Eugenio's way for a change. We've seen him able to work his way through traffic quite well many times. So even if he doesn't qualify the best today, he still has a good chance for a strong finish. We know that he can overtake cars, and he knows how to make a move.
Yeah, most definitely is. That's what we're going to be looking for drivers that aren't too far down the order, is making moves. One driver that I don't think should have to make too much moves is I want to say, if my memory serves me right, I want to say the 11-year-old Andrew Gilliland, and it still blows my mind that a driver this young is able to get himself this mature to race with the big dogs in the Spec-5 World Tour. So I know we mention it every single week, but hats off to Andrew Gilliland for running this series. It's absolutely incredible. And he's first in points. So he is by no stretch of the imagination a driver that you're going to expect to run in the back all race. He's leading the points for the open class in this series. So a very fast driver with 100% a bright future ahead of him.
Absolutely. We saw him running a little bit wide there on the exit of Spoon. I'm pretty sure he invalidated that lap time. I don't think it was an out lap, so he's going to have to come around and start another lap. Because now we're on board with Andy Kosick in that 50 entry, and he's trailing Andrew Gilliland by a few points. So if you're Kosick, you want to put some pressure on that kid, see how he can stand up to a little bit of the intimidation maybe, and try to get some of those points back. And if you're if you're Andrew Gilliland, it's going to be interesting to see if he can handle that sort of pressure.
Yeah, and that is one thing that a veteran driver of the series is going to be looking for, is pressuring the younger driver into possibly making a mistake. So that is what the that is what the older driver of Andrew Kostic is going to have to try and do here is going to have to try and put pressure on the younger driver and try and just do the best he can to make sure that he can end up in front of him at the end of the race. I mean, really, that's the goal for everybody in this field, isn't it? As we're looking at Otis Adams Jr. currently sitting at P11, and it looks like he might be scrubbing off the tires there. He's swerving a bit entering this corner, and he took that corner really weird. So I think he might be on a throwaway lap right now, just trying to maybe scrub the tires, warm them up for the next lap. But something that I just noticed on the timing tower that I do want to mention, Simon Foweather and Scott Keane have ran the exact same qualifying lap so far. Both of these drivers have run a 2:23.768. Currently, Simon Foweather getting the benefit of the doubt there with the leg up over Scott Keane there in P3 compared to Scott's P4. But the exact same lap. And if you want to say these cars are spread out too much, there is nothing you can say it now, especially with that lap time. That's incredible.
And we see now the top 10 are within basically a half second of each other. And over a lap that's 2 minutes and 23 to 24 seconds, half a second is not a very big gap at all. So these drivers have really got this course dialed in. They found the speed. They know where it's at. Right now, Mitchell Peak is the fastest out of all of them, but he's going to have a lot of drivers knocking on his back door right at the start.
Yeah, definitely. And another driver that we have yet to mention so far this stream is Camden Hibbett. Got his first win last season at the Indianapolis Road Course in the final race of the season. Unfortunately, didn't win the championship. Still looking for his first win this season, if I'm not mistaken. I'm probably horribly wrong on that. But if I'm not mistaken, he should still be hunting for his first win of the season. And this also young driver, I believe 14 years of age, has shown a lot of maturity and a lot of raw pace. And just look at how much he eats that curve there in that corner, in that one corner there. I'm not sure what corner number it is, but just absolutely eats the curve there. And it looks like he just quick reset to the pits, realizing he wasn't going to be on a really good lap. Otis Adams going to try and set another lap, but I don't think he will have the time to get it. We've got just about a minute and a half remaining in qualifying, about a minute and 15 seconds for these drivers to get any last second laps, and I don't think Otis will get this lap done, but still a valiant effort from him. And actually, I only just noticed this. Let's look at the car in P10. That's Ken Copeland, one of the open class cars, and he's about 4 seconds away from Jose Gonzalez, and we've got where we can't look at him right now because he's in the pits, but that is a staggering margin from the rest of the open class field.
Yeah, he's definitely got track position on the rest of the open class, which is going to play into his favor. And we see another entry there in the open class. Paulo Coimbra, I believe this is his first race of the season. Glad to see Paulo back out here getting it on a Thursday night with the boys. So welcome back, Paulo. And yeah, we have this might be the biggest open class crowd that we've seen so far this season. And we got a couple of them punching up with the heavyweights.
Yeah, definitely. And Jose Gonzalez up there as well in 15th place. Another impressive drive from him, as these drivers just trying to get any last minute practice that they can before we start this race. 10 seconds remaining in qualifying. It looks like nobody else going to have a lap to finish. Michael Coates might be able to finish one if he can get down to the line. He's looks like, no, it doesn't look like he was able to, just barely miss it. It looked like he wouldn't even have improved his lap anyways. But here's your starting grid for race 4 of season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Mike Dam is there in P1. Actually, I completely missed him stealing pole. I thought it was Mitchell Peak this whole time, but Mike Dam on pole with a 2:23.502, and it's a Canadian front row with Mitchell Peak in second there with a just about 19 thousandths back. Michael Coates is in third, Camden Hibbett in P4, Joshua Soto in P5, Scott Keane in P6, Simon Foweather in P7, Ronnie Coates in P8, Robert Hartley in 9th, Ray Lombardi in 10th, Ken Copeland way ahead of any other open class competition there in 11th, Eugenio Pollicci is in 12th, a little bit further behind them. We have, if we can scroll down, there we go, Otis Adams Jr. is in 13th, Sean Hayes in 14th, Jose Gonzalez in 15th, Gareth Brockles being 16th, Kenneth Staub in 17th, Jordy Fike in 18th, Paulo Coimbra in 19th, Jerry DiPiero in 20th, Greg Mack in 21st, Brian Zabelski in 22nd, Charles Vaccaro in 23rd, Alexander Searle in 24th, and then Andrew Kosick in 25th, John Casey in 26th. Andrew Gilliland in 27th, Josh Olson in 28th, and it looks like the last two drivers on the grid didn't set a lap, those being Lee Martin and Rui Coimbra in 29th and 30th, but they are still on the grid, so they are here. It looks like they just didn't get to set a qualifying lap. So as we get ready to gear up for this race, about 30 seconds from cars starting to roll, we'll see if we can get Otis Adams Jr. in here for a pre-race interview. He's driving the number 22 car, if I can find him. There he is. So I'm going to see if I can drag him in here real quick. There he is. So just give me one moment, and I just dragged him into the second booth. Otis Adams Jr., there you are. So I know you guys are about to get rolling. We'll make this short, but how are you feeling heading into 45 minutes of this race? Hello.
Pretty good. Suzuka's not my best track, but practice was going okay. I messed up my last 2 laps in qualifying. Otherwise, I think I could have got probably about 5 spots higher up. So, yeah, feeling decent. Hopefully, we can make a good one.
All right, well, I know this is very short, but good luck in the race. I want to give you time, so good luck in the race, and hopefully we'll see you at the end of it.
All right, thanks, guys.
And that was Otis Adams Jr., driver of the number 22 Miata Knight. He's starting from P12, if I'm not mistaken. But as the iRacing safety truck now into the safety of the pit lane at the iconic Suzuka International Racing Course, it is all up to the drivers as they await the green flag. A little bit down the front straight, Mike Dam, Mitchell Peak, Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates. Who will it be? The green flag is out, and we are racing from Suzuka. Mike Dam gets a pretty good start, but Mitchell Peak makes it better on the outside. I think he'll be clear into turn number 1 as the whole field fans out. What a beautiful sight as they head into turn number 1. Mitchell Peak with the early lead. It looks like Mike Dam gonna hang on to the outside. 3 wide back there. I think that might have been for 6th between a couple of drivers as everybody's scrambling to just make up as many positions as they can before the S's now, as they're going to have to give room for each other. Here we're looking at Kenneth Staub in the 137 cars. He's tumbling down the order up towards the front of the field. Everybody's single file so far, but still side-by-side racing closely towards the back.
You see they're starting to sort themselves out. A few drivers still out of line here at the back of the field, but the first front half of the field all single file by the time they got to the S's. Mitchell Peak showing some real patience there. He could have taken that spot into turn 1, could have closed the door there on Mike Dam. Thought discretion was a better part of valor. You can't win the race in turn 1, but you can certainly lose it there. He gives the room, ends up losing the spot, but he's there to fight for the rest of this 45-minute race.
Yeah, most certainly. As now as they head towards the hairpin, it looks like Mike Dam has swiftly taken the lead as Mitchell Peak made a very good attempt to take it from him as Joshua Soto and Simon Foweather were side by side back there. It looks like Foweather is going to end up getting that spot, but the field relatively tame now as everybody's just going to bide their time now, and I assume just wait for the pit stops is how these races usually go, as everybody just going to remain calm, only take a move when they know they can get it, especially with how dangerous some of these corners on this track can get. Speaking of dangerous corners, the next one is 130R in terms of the leaders, so we're gonna have to see how these drivers handle it on the first lap, especially with this gaggle of cars in the back, knowing that they might be side by side into one of the most dangerous corners probably in all of motorsport.
And if you're deep in one of these lines, it's going to be very hard to see your entry, so you need to back off a little bit, stick your nose out to get a spot. But look, we're looking at Charles Vaccaro real quick. Looks like some damage on the car, so definitely not a clean start for everybody. Vaccaro ended up off the track somewhere, I believe, and maybe some contact with the wall. He got some pretty heavy damage on the right side of that car.
I thought he started from the pits there, as he's going to head through 130R for the first time. But the leaders around the front straightaway to complete lap number 1. Mike Dam so far with the fastest lap. That being a 2:27, 3:79. Mitchell Peak is going to go for it, though, into turn number 1. Mike is going to let him have the spot as Mitchell Peak soars to the lead already on the second lap of this race. This 56 car currently flying around here. Soto and Foweather still fighting for that spot a little bit further back. That is for 5th. Looks like Soto is going to be able to get that spot back from Simon Foweather now as Mitchell Peak continuing to try and pull away from the rest of the field. Here's that battle as Simon Foweather has fallen back just a little bit now, as it's pretty much a single file pack, pretty much a 10-car main pack. They're a little bit split up in the middle between Joshua Soto and Cannon Hibbett, but pretty much a 10-car back leading all the way back to Eugenio Polici there in 11th. As, Michael Coates is off the road there. He looks like he'll get back on track just in time to rejoin the main pack, but could have been a much worse outcome for him as he is going to go from, I believe, 3rd all the way down to 8th now. I wonder how that happened.
Looked like he ran a little bit wide on the exit of the S's and got out there in the grass. It kind of becomes negative camber there a little bit. It's very, very hard to keep the car on track if you're getting a little bit greedy on the throttle coming out of the S's. And it looks like he learned that lesson here early in this race. Luckily, still in contact with the lead pack and going to have a chance to work his way back up.
Yeah, it definitely is. It could have been worse for him, but still definitely not what you want to see early on in this race. However, Ken Copeland currently with a pretty decent lead for this early on in the race over Jose Gonzalez there in 2nd for the open class. About 3 cars separating these drivers. So really, I mean, Jose Gonzalez is just trying to hold on, but it looks like Jerry DiPiero, Adam, no, your boy might have had an incident here heading into the hairpin. He's riding in line behind Jose Gonzalez. Looks like he would have been 3rd in the open class at this point. He goes onto the brakes for the hairpin, gets a little bit jostled up by Rui Coimbra. He's able to keep the car together until the exit, and he goes around head on into the guardrail. That's going to be a decent amount of damage for the 122 team to have to fix. I believe they do have one faster pair, though. I think oh no, some cars around. That, I think, is Gareth Brocklesby driving the 333 car, and it looks like somebody else went around back there as well, Josh Olson. Oh, he went around again, entering that chicane. Yeah, this is Josh Olson, the number 21 car. And another car around is Jerry DiPiero again. Looks like it won't. No, that's definitely going to be some rear-end damage for him. And it hasn't gone well for all manner of drivers. I thought I saw Paulo Coimbra go off to the right there in 130R as well, and that's going to be a damaged rear tire for Jerry DiPiero. Not how we wanted this race to start at all, but that was a multitude of different incidents. Here's Alexander Searle as well having trouble. He goes into turn number 2. I'm not sure what happened to him here.
It looks like maybe it was not an incident after all, and this came up as a red herring on our timing screen. We're now back to live racing. Oh, sorry. Correction. This was Ken Copeland, the leader in the open class, gets it wrong going into turn 2, carrying a little bit too much speed, has to get on the brakes extra hard and spins the car. Now we're back to live racing with Jose Gonzalez leading Rui Coimbra.
Yeah, and actually that just put a bunch of Jose Gonzalez, all class leaders having trouble. It's Jose Gonzalez off track there as they head under the Bridgestone Bridge now, as this is going to make it the open class cars in 1st and 2nd are going to be right on top of each other now, as Paulo Coimbra going to have a shot to race with his fellow #NotATeam teammate there of Jose Gonzalez. So now we might get a bit of a battle in the open class, as the pro battle currently just at a stalemate right now, as everybody up on the main pack just kind of biding their time.
Right now we only see one gap in the leaders, and that's back between Scott Keane and Robert Hartley. Hartley is a good guy to be behind. If you guys are going to close this gap up, he can lead you back up to the front and play the Pied Piper here. And maybe by the time they get through the pit cycle, they'll have closed that gap up. They're going to need the leaders to fight a little bit, though, to help them.
Yeah, definitely. So Robert Hartley is going to have to just try and work with Michael Coates and everybody in that little pack behind him if they want to catch up to leaders. It looked like they gained about 0.7 of a second through 130R. So I think they will have a decent shot at catching up, but not the best run out of the corner there. And actually, there was a tie for the fastest lap of the race. It was going to be a 2:24.035 from both Mitchell Peak and Joshua Soto, but Soto just quickly stole the fastest lap of the race right back there with a 2:23.589, and he's going to go for second here, and he's going to get second from Mitchell Peak, who lost the lead to Mike Dam in the process. So first to third in one singular straightaway for Mitchell Peak, and that just goes to show how the racing in these cars can change. It can change so fast, and how you have to be prepared for every single lap and every single moment.
And you can bet when we get to that chicane on the last lap, it's going to be a knife fight. It's going to be multiple cars going for moves at the same time, and it'll be an absolute melee. Until then, I expect we'll see the leaders swapping positions a lot, trying to get laps led to get those bonus points. The more they fight, the more this number 3 car is going to close that gap to them 10th by 10th, lap by lap, and before you know it, we're going to have a big lead pack again.
Yeah, they do have to keep their pace up, though, as that lead pack is being no pushover right now, even with them racing each other a little bit. And here's Ray Lombardi, driver that hasn't had the best of showings in the pro class so far. He dominated a season of the open class and was able to bring home the championship there. You can see him holding his open class trophy there in his little profile picture on the bottom right. But for everybody else for him in the pro class, his pro class career just has not gone the way he probably would have liked, as he just has not been able to consistently find his way to the front of the field. He's got a good showing right now, he's got a good race going, though, right now in 10th place.
Yeah, he's doing really well, and he even admitted that this first season in the pro class is going to be a learning experience for him. So hopefully he can keep it together and find out how these guys are faster than him and start to find some pace out there. Now we see Simon Foweather and the 271 going side by side. They're slicing and dicing back and forth. Scott Keen there getting a little squirrely. Simon Foweather is always a very, very aggressive driver and seems to be a pretty aggressive defender. I wonder if he can temper that aggression a little bit this race, because Suzuka doesn't really lend itself to super aggressive driving. So we'll see if Foweather can work that out. But right now he's in 5th place, so he's having a good race.
Yeah, and he lost a bit of time to the leader there, as well as Mike Dam at the fastest lap of the race with a 2:23.012. And you say Suzuka isn't a track where aggressive driving plays well. I think the chicane on the last lap begs to differ. But we'll see what happens there in about 35 minutes, as these drivers just have to bide their time, wait for the pit stops, which, if I can check our notes real fast for this race, the pit window should be it should be an 18 to 19 second lap. And I'm still trying to find where
the pit window will open on lap 6 and close on lap 12, though there may be some drivers in this draft that can save a little bit of fuel and stretch it out for a 13th lap. Now, whether that's faster or not is yet to be seen, but the pit window is lap 6 to lap 12.
Yeah, and it looks like, now that I'm looking at the broadcast notes thoroughly, we do have some more important tips from Ray Lombardi in terms of corners on this track. We have the best place to die is a 130R, and I wholeheartedly believe that, especially with what we've seen so far already. Most important exits are Spoon and the Hairpin, and that most certainly makes sense. And the best place to eat the curb is the Snake Degner and the Casio Chicane, which is definitely true, as you see, especially in that the Casio Chicane, as you're seeing these guys drive straight over the curb in search of any sort of speed that they can squeeze out of these little cars. But so far, it's seeming to be a 4-car breakaway, as we're looking at Jordy Fike now. But it's seeming to be a 4-car breakaway, as, there's a car off track. That's Simon Foweather.
It looks like he's got a heavy amount of damage. Looks like he had contact with another car and possibly a wall there. We'll try to get the replay pulled up. We also saw on the timing screen Josh Olson had to take the car to the pits, so he has been having issues as well and struggling to keep the car going. And now we're going to take a look at it. These two we talked about just a lap ago, Simon Foweather and Scott Keen, running side by side, coming together, and just a little bit of contact. Two drivers going for the same piece of pavement, and it ends up in disaster for Simon Foweather. Scott Keen looks like he gets away with just some time lost, but Foweather's race is going to be over.
It could very well be, as he tows back to the pits, and he has a lot of damage on that number 236 machine. So tough break for Simon Foer. Showed a lot of pace early, but unfortunately has not gone the way he wants. Ronnie Coates with the new fastest lap of the race with a 2:22.968. So overall, the second pack showing a decent amount of pace, but I don't know if it'll be enough for them to catch up to the main pack of this field. As we're looking at said second pack, it consists only of 3 cars now, as Ray Lombardi has fallen off a little bit. Currently consists of Robert Hartley, Michael Coates, and Ronnie Coates. And these 3 drivers are going to try their best to catch up to the 4-car main pack and get themselves back in contention here.
So they're closer than the timing tower would indicate. They're 2.5 seconds back now, but they used to be 2.5 seconds back off of P7. So a couple cars have been knocked out of that lead pack. The gap has remained about the same, so they're closer to the leader than they used to be. But yes, they're still closing that gap down, and they're going to need to work together to continue to do so.
Yeah, slowly but surely they're catching up, and look at how much they eat the curb in that corner. It's incredible to watch, but into the very slow hairpin, everybody just taking pretty much the same line, just the typical inside, outside, inside, or I got that completely backwards, the outside, inside, outside hairpin logic. So everybody they have to just try and buy their time. The pit window should be open this lap, if I'm not mistaken, from what you were saying, Randall. So pit window should be open, so these drivers should be able to pit now and make it to the end if they so choose. However, judging off of what we've seen in the past, I think it'll be a decent amount of time before we see any of these drivers head into the pit lane.
We see Mitchell Peak losing a little bit of time here, falling off. He's going to be in danger of losing the draft, and it's also going to bring Hartley into striking distance very soon. And you got to wonder, is this a tactical play, trying to bring that other pack up, or did he just make a mistake? But we're seeing some fighting here for the lead going through 130R and now into the Casio Triangle. Camden Hibbett going to look to the inside there and gets the move done on Mike Dam. Going to take over P2. Josh Soto is going to lead this lap. No takers so far on the pit entry, though.
Yeah, is everybody going to just stay out of the pits and I assume wait a couple of laps now, as Robert Hartley has been closing this gap down? There is no new fastest lap in store for that second pack, but still they are making up quite a bit of time. They could drag along Ray Lombardi and the 5 cars behind him as well. Actually, Scott Keane going for a move there into turn number 1. Doesn't look like he'll get it there. See if he can hang on to it in turn number 2, and he will. He'll take away P8 from Ray Lombardi. No, Ray's going to fight back on the inside on entry to the S's. Now it's just going to be a series of switchbacks for these drivers, but Ray Lombardi going to surge ahead after the second S curve, and now, as that just lost them quite a bit of time to the cars ahead.
Scott Keane definitely backed out of that, knew better than to try to fight all the way through the S's. The fight through turns 1 and 2, and then on the entry to the S's cost them enough time. So if he would have stayed there, they would have lost even more. But if you're going to make a move, you got to make it stick, and you got to get it done early. Scott Keane was not able to that time.
Yeah, and now as Scott Keane is just going to have to ride in line behind Ray Lombardi. I don't think he should make a real attempt at passing him, as really, I think that would just slow them both down. So here we look at Ray Lombardi as he heads into as he heads into the hairpin once again, just trying to hold off this driver. They're side by side in the back of this pack, though. That was Jose Gonzalez and Kenneth Staub, if I'm not mistaken, racing for it a little bit. No, I got it completely wrong. It was Rui Coimbra, a different hashtag not a team car. Actually, no, I got it wrong again. It was Otis Adams, another hashtag not a team car, and he was racing with Sean Hayes, not Kenneth Staub, going into the hairpin. Here they are now. No tire smoke up ahead. Somebody got a little sideways up in front of them, but I think it might officially be a 7-car pack now, as Robert Hartley has gotten himself, Michael Coates, and Ronnie Coates well within drafting range of the leaders, and they're actually fighting for the lead heading into 130R. Camden Hibbett going to take it away from Joshua Soto.
And Josh didn't find Hartley off in the background. It looks like he was that. Sorry, that was not Hartley. That was the number 93 of Mike Dam. And you have to wonder if he had a little bit of help. The way he was sliding across the track didn't look like he did that all on his own. It looks like he got away relatively damage-free, though. We're going to take a look at the replay here as he's coming up to the hairpin. Yeah, so we're quite far away from where the mistake or the incident happened. And we see him go off track here at the hairpin, give the spot up to Mitchell Peak, And then it wasn't until later in the lap after the spoon curve where they got to 130R where the incident happened. So we're just going to have to wait a moment while the cars make their way there. And now we jumped to that incident. And no cars around him. Looks like he did this on his own. Just came in there a little hot, got there on that exit curb, and it just yanked the rear end around, taps the right rear taps that right rear against the wall, and it's hard to see if he has any actual damage from it. Some cosmetic damage there on the right rear, but it looks like the car is handling fine.
Yeah, and that definitely compares to the wrecks that we saw in 130R the last time the Spec-5 World Tour came to Suzuka. They always seem to follow that same style of wreck. Some car or some driver would get their wheels a little bit set a little bit on the curbs. That way, one or their right side of the tires would be to the right of that curb, and their left side tires would be to the left of that curb. And it would always just tend to snap the car around as soon as the right side tires came off of the curbing. That is pretty much exactly what we saw there. Mike Dam got a bit of leeway there, or a little. Not sure what word I'm looking for. He got a bit lucky there with that corner when it typically comes to wrecks in that corner. He got quite lucky there for not having much damage, and something happened to Mitchell Peak, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not smart. I'm not very good at reading. Adam pointed it out for me beautifully. If you see that little L7 number, or L6 or L5 next to some of these drivers, that means they came into the pits that lap. I never would have guessed. I can't read. So Mitchell Peak decided to gamble on his pit strategy, and he came into the pits on lap 7 of this race, presumably, or at least I would assume, to get away from how these leaders are racing. And personally, I would as well, as it probably is a little scary if you're wanting to preserve your car. But Camden Hibbett going to be the second of the leaders to enter the pit lane there, and he will do so all by his lonesome, as Robert Hartley just set the fastest lap of the race with a 2:22.706. As everybody in this lead pack still has yet to pit, safe for Camden Hibbett and Mitchell Peak. So all those drivers have headed into the pits, and now we just have to see where Camden Hibbett comes out compared to Mitchell Peak, and if those two are going to be able to work together. But Robert Hartley just easily took the lead from Joshua Soto, and I almost wonder there, Joshua Soto let him by maybe to save some fuel or something.
I didn't see a previous incident to make Josh Soto want to surrender the lead like that. I don't know if maybe they had made some contact in the last time Soto had made a move around him and was just giving him the spot. But yes, Soto does surrender the spot. Maybe he just didn't want to have to fight Hartley through the S's and just thought, I'll let him go. And if you're going to follow somebody, like I said before, Hartley is a good one to follow. He can lead you to really good places, as now he's in the lead of this race. And just a few laps ago, we were talking about him trying to fight to get back in contact with the leaders.
And he closed that gap up beautifully over the course of a couple of laps, and now leading this race over Joshua Soto, who has pretty much been in the front the entire race. And actually, looking at where Mitchell Peak and Camden Hibbett are, they, relatively speaking, are right on top of each other at the moment, as Camden Hibbett just over a second back, actually under a second now. So Camden Hibbett, he's with Mitchell Peak at the moment. Here they are as they head towards the hairpin. They are with each other. So as soon as they get to a straight, Camden will probably have the opportunity to use some of that slipstream and get up to the back bumper of Mitchell Peak, so they can really start to work together down these straights. Mitchell Peak with the early pit stop, and it looks like it's paid off for him so far, as he's ahead of one of the drivers that was in the lead pack.
Now, I haven't seen any incidents with Mitchell Peak, but you have to wonder maybe if he had a little bit of damage he wanted to get repaired. He came in early. Normally, coming in that early and by yourself would spell doom on a track like this where there's so much slipstream. But Camden Hibbett came in on the next lap, so they, like you mentioned, can work together. But they're still going to have a lot of work to do because this lead pack is smaller, but they still got a nice draft going. A bit of a gap between second and third, but they're managing to click off some pretty good lap times as the fuel burns off and the cars get lighter and lighter. We see Robert Hartley now with the fastest lap of the race of the 2:22.7.
Yeah, and He set that lap, I believe, about a lap ago, so still showing pace in that number 3 cars. Mike Dam on a recovery effort now, currently working with Scott Keane and Otis Adams Jr., about 4.5 seconds back from Ronnie Coates, who is only about 2/10 back from Michael Coates, who is only about a second back from the leaders. So, decent recovery effort going so far, but it looks like the two open class leaders at the moment, Andrew Gilliland and Andrew Kosick. Sorry, I just said and about 40 times there. Andrew Gilliland and Andrew Kosick now into the pits together, and here's Jose Gonzalez and Paulo Coimbra. We'll see if these two end up ahead of the other open class drivers as they head down the front straightaway, and they will clear them by a mile. So it looks like it will be Jose Gonzalez and Paulo Coimbra fighting for the open class win at the end of the race. So we'll have to keep an eye on this and how close these two are able to keep it to each other.
Paulo's first race of the season. I know I've seen him in a few of the official sessions this week talking about Thursday, so he's really been looking forward to this race, hungry for a win.
Yeah, so we'll see what he is able to do behind the wheel of his Miata. Now he'll have to beat one of his #NotATeam teammates now, as he's actually getting passed by Greg Mack, and that is not going to help his case at all, as he's going to fall back a little bit from his teammate. And here is how that pass happened. It looks like not the smoothest first couple of S's for Paulo Coimbra. Goes off track a little bit there, and Greg Mack says thank you very much, and actually he gets off track a little bit himself. It says thank you very much, I'll take that spot right away, and ends up getting in front of him now. And now Paulo actually needs to catch up to his teammate if he wants a shot at the open class win, but they also have Ken Copeland right with him.
But yeah, that race in the open class far from over, and we'll see it develop. Right now, looking at Robert Hartley. We jump back to Mitchell Peak. Hartley, the leaders into the pits. Robert Hartley using every inch of track there, getting onto that pit entry, trying to maximize his speed through the pit entry. You can really gain a lot of time on your competitors if you attack the pit entry at tracks like this. Robert Hartley, very, very well versed in how to drive these cars fast anywhere and everywhere. Takes every advantage he can get.
Yeah, and now we have to see where these leaders, that being Robert Hartley and, if I am not mistaken, Joshua Soto, who also was in that lead pack, come out in relation to these two, Camden Hibbett and Mitchell Peak. And Camden has closed the gap to Mitchell Peak, so these two are the provisional leaders at the moment. But Joshua Soto and Scott Keane and Michael Coates out of the pits now. Otis Adams Jr. heading out of the pits, and it was a slow stop. No, it wasn't a slow stop for Robert Hartley. I completely forgot who was running with Soto there before the pit stops, but it looks like Hartley, it was a close fight for him, but he's going to be able to maintain pace with these lead pack drivers. And so far, it's going to be a 5-car provisional lead pack, as Joshua Soto and Michael Coates have managed to get themselves in front of Camden Hibbett and Mitchell Peak. So currently a 5-car provisional lead pack.
We'll see if Ronnie Coates has been able to close that gap over this pit cycle, running around with very little fuel. As we see Michael Coates going off again at the exit of the S's, he's really struggling at that point of the track. He needs to get that speed back up to keep in contact here. He's going to have a chance to close up down a little bit through the Degners and into the hairpin, but he's going to be in trouble very quickly here if he can't close that gap quickly.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to have to close that gap up if he wants a shot, and he's going to have to do it fast, as those drivers starting to pull away into the sunset. But still 5 drivers, or no, excuse me, 6, wait, I can't count, I'm sorry. 4 drivers, Ronnie Coates, Kenneth Staub, Ryan Zabelski, and Lee Martin. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers that have yet to come into the pits. So we're going to see what Ronnie Coates does this lap. Usually Ronnie Coates is always on top of the pit strategy, so we'll see where he comes out of the pits whenever he decides to make that hard right turn. And he's going to do it now, so he'll be the last lead contending car to head into the pit lane now, as it's going to be a long drive for him down the pit lane, just knowing that 4 other hungry Miatas are going to be chasing after him as soon as he heads out of the pit lane. And speaking of those hungry Miatas, they're currently breaking into the chicane, so not a lot of time for Ronnie Coates to get his service done.
He's going to be coming out much slower than they are on the straightaway. So even if he comes out ahead, by the time they get to turn 1, he could find himself mired back in 5th place or fighting for 4th or 3rd. I suspect, though, he's not going to be really have very much contact. But he's proven me wrong as he's pulling out of the pits now. So he may be the wedge that's needed here to bring Michael Coates back into contact. But no, he's going to have a commanding lead going into turn 1 and nails the pit strategy once again, rides around out there for one other lap on that light fuel, gets a good lap and brings it into the pits. You got to wonder, though, if he put enough fuel into that car. That's a big gap that he's managed to build without much draft. So he may be having to feel safe here at the end of the race.
Still, Ronnie Coates' pit strategy just never ceases to amaze me what he's able to do in the pit lane. He can be dead last in the field, and all of a sudden, he'll shoot up to first just off the pit stops, and then he'll be in contention for the win at the end of the race. But about if my math serves me correctly, and so far tonight it has not, 17 minutes remaining in this race, and Ronnie Coates leads them at the moment about a second ahead of Joshua Soto, which is a pretty decent gap, but it looks like it is going to be a 7-car main pack once the remaining 3 cars on track head into the pit lane. So the provisional lead pack currently has 7 cars in it at the moment, as Kenneth Staub leading the field all by as a lonesome there in the number 137 car. He's up 16 spots from where he started, but still has to make a pit stop.
And unless he's been able to save some fuel, we'll see him in this lap, as well as Brian Zabelski and Lee Martin, both up a lot of spots just by virtue of not pitting yet. We see the number 21 car is off, and that would be Josh Olson struggling again. He's not had the greatest race. I just saw it on the timing screen. He was parked off to the side there very briefly. He's got the car moving again. Doesn't look like he has any damage. So I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah, it just looks like he just might have pulled into the pits, might have just wanted a break from the action, and that's exactly what he got. Is kind of the stop. Gonna head into the pits now, Randall, if I'm not mistaken. I believe lap 12 was the last lap you said these drivers could head into the pits, and it looks like all 3 of them that had stayed out for a while will end up pulling it down into this downhill pit lane, which I always forget this pit lane is sloped down, or the front straightaway is sloped downhill, so it's definitely not easy to generate runs heading down this front straightaway. It being downhill kind of almost negates the effect the slipstream normally has, but Joshua Soto is still going to take advantage of the little slipstream he has. He'll take the lead into turn number 1 now over Ronnie Coates. Heading into turn 2, Ronnie going to have to fall back to second, but Joshua Soto now leads the 7-car field with about 15 minutes remaining.
We saw how quickly that gap disappeared by virtue of that slipstream. So it was enough to get him in front, not enough to give him a big enough gap to break that draft. You have to think maybe he was saving fuel while he was in the lead pack earlier. We didn't see him up at the front very much. Now he's up at the front with not much time left to go, about a third of the race left. So he's in a good position. I just hope that he has enough fuel to bring the fight for the win here at the end.
Yeah, and I think with him riding behind another car, he should be able to fuel save if he so needs to. So I reckon Ronnie Coach, or I just said Coach. I've not been able to speak the English language very well tonight, and I do apologize. But Ronnie Coates, with how good he is at the pit strategy, I wouldn't be shocked if there's no need to worry about him making it to the end of this race. He's just so consistent and so good at these pit stops. And actually, I don't want to say it, but there's a bit of a gap starting to form between Camden Hibbett and Ronnie Coates at the moment. These drivers haven't been racing for this spot, but they still are steadily losing a bit of time to the leaders. They're going to try and make it up using this uphill straightaway, but so far, Ronnie Coates and Joshua Soto showing a lot of pace, really just pulling away from the rest of the field.
Don't ever discount Ronnie Coates' pace. If he's not going fast, he's doing it because he's got a plan. He's got the afterburners on now, and he's hanging with Josh Soto pretty well. Like, this gap could close down pretty easily. It's only 7/10 now as they reach 130R. Slipstream plays such a big role at a track like this. It really plays a role at any track in these cars, but having these big long straightaways makes any gap really suspect and dangerous.
Yeah, and So we can ignore what I said about the gap being formed, as that chicane brought Camden Hibbett right back into the lead field. Is actually Robert Hartley going for a move for P4 there around Mitchell Peak. You can see him side by side down the front straightaway, and they're side by side for the lead as well. Ronnie Coates going to try and take his lead back, and he will into turn number 1. Says, thank you very much. I'll have that right back, as Ronnie Coates going to take the lead back, and Robert Hartley going to move himself up to 4th in this pack. Mitchell Peak could think about a switch back to the inside, but not able to get there fast enough. He'll have to settle for 5th at the moment, as Mike Dam and Michael Coates still watch on. And actually, I haven't really realized this, but now that I have, it's been a really well organized recovery race for the number 93 team. He spun out a couple laps before the pit cycle had started, and now he finds himself up back in this lead pack. And so props to Mike Dam for staying in this race and getting himself back into this lead pack. It's a great recovery effort from this team.
Mike Dam's one of the fastest MX5 drivers I've ever seen. So as long as that car doesn't have much damage on it, he has a chance here. Don't count him out yet just because he's all the way back in 7th. He has plenty of time to get his way back up to the lead. And if anybody can get it done, it's Mike Dam.
Yeah, definitely, and we just have to wait to see what this Canadian driver can do from the back of this main pack, as Camden Hibbett once again starting to lose time, but I reckon that gap will be vanished as soon as they head through the chicane and back down the front straightaway. But Robert Hartley going to go for another move this lap, and Joshua Soto is going to go for the lead entering this corner, and he's going to try and stick it out on the inside, and it looks like just can't get the momentum into that corner, and he has to relent that spot, and he loses a lot of time in the process. Robert Hartley is going to try and take advantage of it now, and this is exactly what Ronnie Coates wants to see in his mirror. He's going to probably try and keep these two even on slipstream and force them to go side by side through 130R. Soto, however, gonna be the bigger man in that situation and let Robert Hartley have the spot. So Robert Hartley from 5th all the way up to 2nd in 1 lap now as they head through the chicane.
So this is going to be a 19-lap race. We're at the end of lap 14, and I think what we're seeing now is people's exploring some moves, a little bit of dress rehearsal of what we're going to see on the last lap. It's going to be a bit of a crapshoot. Do you want to be in the lead on the last lap to avoid the chaos? But being in that lead was going to make you a sitting duck for the slipstream. So it's an interesting call who wants to be in the lead. But they're definitely going to start fighting with each other, so the lead might be the safest spot to be.
Hey, I'm no professional in these cars, so I'm going to leave it to the drivers and say I don't know what's going to happen when they hit this final lap. I said that they're all probably going to die in the chicane. However, that could come this lap heading into the hairpin. So I don't know what's going to happen, as we are just shy of 10 minutes remaining in this race. So it's going to be about, I want to say, 3 or 4 laps to go at the line. I assume 4. So just waiting for these drivers to collect the white flag, and that's really where the pace is going to ramp up. They're already fighting for these spots really hard, but that's when it is going to really start to pick up, is on 2 to go. I think that's when these drivers are going to start to make these moves to get towards the front.
There's not many drivers out there that have more experience in the MX5 than Robert Hartley, so keep your eye on the number 3 car. Whatever he's doing is probably the right decision. So if I'm there in that blue car chasing him, Josh Soto, I'm probably going to follow him all the way until the end and then try to make a move at the very last second.
Yeah, that could be what these drivers are going to try and do here, as pretty much, I mean, like you mentioned, Randall, about a lap ago, it's just what you're seeing right now is just going to be a dress rehearsal for the final lap. Drivers are realizing where moves are likely to succeed the most and where they're likely to go wrong. And that's probably what Joshua Soto was doing when just in that corner, that last lap, he tried to make a move to get around Ronnie Coates on the inside. And he realized he can't really make that work on the inside. So he backs out of it. And now he knows that you don't really want to go for a move there. But Robert Hartley going to go for the lead. He was in 5th a lap ago, but he's not going to take a lead just yet. In the 130R, they get really close on the exit. He's on the death curb. He saves it off the death curb. Almost 3 wide into the chicane. And then Robert Hartley is going to take the lead as Joshua Soto. No, Ronnie Coates going to still stick his nose back in there. But Robert Hartley, 5th just a lap ago, but survives the death curb. And he will take the lead as Mitchell Peak falling down the order now.
Robert Hartley flirting with disaster. What we saw there was Ronnie Coates make a defensive move very early, thinking that if the race is going to be won or lost there, it'll be in 130R, and the inside line might be the best, but Hartley still got the better of him. So now he has that to put in his back pocket for the end of the race. As Robert Hartley leads them towards the S's here on lap 16, there'll be 3 laps to go the next time by.
Yeah, and I know it might just be me being a little goofy calling that the death curb in 130R, but I call it that because that's pretty much what it is in these cars. You hit that curb the wrong way, it can send your race straight to hell, and that's what has happened in the past with some of these drivers. That's what almost happened to Mike Dam earlier in this race. Hit that curb the wrong way, sent him right around. He's thankfully still in this lead pack, but just that curb, it's just so dangerous in these cars if you hit it the wrong way, and I reckon with how close Robert Hartley was to going around, very experienced driver, so I'm not surprised he didn't lose control of his car, and actually got very loose just then, but not surprised Robert Hartley didn't lose control of his car, but I also wouldn't have been surprised if he did, and I reckon also, with the knowledge of knowing that the outside can work through that corner, Robert Hartley is also probably going to note that the outside can be a little sketchy heading into 130R, but on the last lap, I think these drivers are willing to throw anything at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Next time they go through 130R, keep your eye on that curb, and you can see there's a bit of a ledge on the outside of it where it drops off, and your right rear tire is going to be sticking out the furthest, and if it falls over that ledge, it will unload the rear end, bring a lot of grip to the front, and that's what causes the car to spin. So Hartley was right there on that edge, and he straightened out the wheel very quickly to try to bring that right front over as well, and even still you can see that he got really bound up on that ledge.
Yeah, and actually, I want to look at the open class fight real fast because Ken Copeland just took the open class lead from Jose Gonzalez. He got on that curve a little bit there, but I reckon this move was probably made into the hairpin. But Ken Copeland, the new leader of the open class, as Jose Gonzalez lost his lead as it's a pretty chaotic fight up in front of these drivers for what looks like P11. So that's going to be another interesting battle to watch as the laps wind down here. They're going to go side by side into 130R. The 8 car. Or I thought that was the 8 car. That's the 5 car of Alexander Searle. Jordy Fike in the 09 as well. Otis Adams Jr. up in that fight as well. But I think they might be going for the lead here up in the front pack. If not, Ronnie Coates takes second away from Joshua Soto just then into turn number 1. Soto going to try and fight back into the S's. These two can't be fighting right here if they want to maintain their gap to Robert Hartley. And it looks like Soto realizes that. He lets Ronnie Coates have the spot back, and when they get back to the line, I believe we will possibly be on 2 laps to go, maybe 3. So we'll see what happens when they get back to the line, but it's going to be a really tight race to the end.
As we see, Mike Dam is still lurking back there. He's got Mitchell Peak behind him as we jump back here to Ken Copeland. He's got some traffic from some of the pro drivers. He's got his open class contender, Jose Gonzalez, right there on his bumper. So he's eager to get rid of these pro class drivers and maybe put a couple cars between him and Jose right now, trying to work over Otis Adams Jr. through the S's, and it's just not going his way. He's eager to get around Otis here, but he's not able to get it done. He's going to be on the outside for the entry of Degner 1. Might not be the best place to be. We'll see if he continues to stick it through outside there. He brings on the brakes pretty early and lets Adams through.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a little bit of a party pooper, but Otis Adams and Jose Gonzalez are on the same team, so I'm not saying that they might try and plot against Ken Copeland, but I'm also not saying that they're not trying to plot against Ken Copeland. So we could see Otis Adams Jr. I don't think these drivers would stoop to that level, but for Jose Gonzalez to get what I think would be his first win, I don't think it would be his first win, but for Jose Gonzalez to get another win this season, I think they could try something with Ken Copeland. I don't think they would, but it is very well a possibility, so keep an eye on that. But as we head back towards the leaders, it'll be 2 laps to go at the line for them as they head through 130R and now towards the chicane. Robert Hartley still leads Ronnie Coates now as they head through this chicane. Very close. I think Joshua Soto actually tapped Ronnie Coates just then. Tried to get to his outside on the exit of the corner, couldn't do anything about it. This is where the moves are going to start to come out. On 2 laps to go, these drivers are going to start to get desperate, and they're going to start to want to put themselves in the best possible spot for that final back straightaway into the chicane on the last lap.
Let's see, Josh Soto showing his nose here, going to take the entry to turn 1 away from Ronnie Coates and then get the move done into turn 2 to take over second place. Looked like Coates got a little bit aggressive on that first curb in the chicane, and now it runs a little bit wide in turn 2. Going to have Michael Coates to deal with. Coates backs out and lets Ronnie Coates have the spot back, and that way they're not fighting side by side through the S's. They both know how much time that will cost them. Maybe this time next lap we won't see so much give and take, though.
Yeah, it definitely is. This time next lap, Randall, these drivers are going to be throwing everything they can at the other drivers. So we'll see what happens. But as they head through Degner 1 and 2, now just everybody eating that curb, just trying to get any sort of speed they can. But any gap you get here, it's not going to matter. It really is not going to matter, because that straightaway heading towards 130R is just going to draw everybody right back to each other and back to the open class battle. Jose Gonzalez still right on the tail end of Ken Copeland, his fellow open class competitor. So this is the battle for the open class win as well. They are going to be fighting for this win alongside these 7 open class drivers that are going to be in contention for it as well. But there's a bit of a gap starting to form actually between Ronnie Coates and Joshua Soto, and I think Michael Coates has realized that, and he was pushing Ronnie down that straightaway, but no, Mitchell Peak is around. This is going to make it a 6-car pack. Mitchell Peak spins, entering that corner. That'll take him out of contention for the win of this race, and that is going to really hurt him in this points if he can't get back around any of the drivers in front of him. But as the lead pack heads towards 130R for the second to final time, what can Joshua Soto do? What can Ronnie Coates do from third? He has to try and close this gap down, or maybe hope these two start to race each other, but side by side in the chicane behind him.
Michael Coates running wide there on the exit of 130R, and now they're going to be jockeying for position back here. They need to get this ordered out. They need to catch back up to that lead pack so they can fight. This is not the good time to be fighting. They need to sort it out. It looks like they have it kind of figured out here. I think Mike Dan might be looking to get past Camden Hibbett here going into turn 1, but the gap back from third to fourth is going to be a little bit insurmountable for a race win. They might be able to get back onto the podium, but that's going to probably be the best they can do.
Final lap of the race, Joshua Soto biding his time. Now he'll look to the outside, heading into the first S on this through. Wow. Heading into the S's for the final time of this race. This is going to allow Ronnie Coates to draw a little bit closer, and I think it could be just these 3 drivers, as Michael Coates, Camden Hibbett, and Mike Dam have lost a good second and a half from fighting through these S's. So I think it's just going to be these front 3 drivers in contention for this race. As Joshua Soto, I assume, biding his time, will probably try and make this move into the chicane on the final lap. But what will Ronnie Coates try and do from third if he wants to get himself up here before that corner?
He's going to have a double draft coming down the straightaway towards 130R. As we see Michael Coates and Camden Hibbett come together in Degner 2. Both of them out of this race now. They're both going to pull off, and that's going to spell disaster for them in the points. They made it so far and just there on the last lap. I think we're going to see Ronnie Coates follow whoever goes on the inside and then try to make a move for the lead coming to the Casio Triangle.
That was a big wreck. We'll check it real fast. It looked like Michael Coates just ended up missing this corner, and it looked like he just caught the curb the wrong way, ended up sliding through the grass and just tail smack or just side swipe Camden Hibbett. They both hit the barrier, and that's going to be the end for both of them. But down this back straightaway for the final time, here we go. Joshua Soto on the inside, Robert Hartley on the outside. Hartley has had experience in this position before. We'll see what Soto does. He has the advantage on the inside. He's got his nose out front. Who does Ronnie Coates choose to push here? He'll give Robert Hartley a shove to get back to the lead. Soto sends it into 130R onto the death curb. Everybody's okay. Into the chicane for the final time. What does Hartley do? He'll try and head to the outside. Can he get the switchback on Joshua Soto? Here comes Ronnie Coates with a run out of that corner. It's going to be all the 135 as they head out of the final corner. A valiant effort from Robert Hartley, but I think it's going to be Joshua Soto, and yes, it will. Here's the battle for the open class. Jose Gonzalez a little bit far back. However, this fight in front of him is going to slow him up a little bit. Here comes Jose Gonzalez to the outside, side by side in the chicane on the final lap. Who is going to get it? There's a pro class car in the way. Jose Gonzalez sends it in. That's Jordy Fike, and he's going to get in the way of the open class battle for the win. Jordy Fike around. That's going to leave room for Ken Copeland to win from Suzuka. What a finish.
Absolutely wild finish there for the open class win. And we saw some pro class drivers in there in the mix as well. Jordy Fike coming out the worst in that situation. You see the move again here. Jose Gonzalez has the right idea there to take the inside line, but that 0-9 of Jordy Fike was just kind of in the way and a little bit slow. Ken Copeland was able to go around the outside of him and get clear and had an easy run to the start-finish line.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was thinking Jordy Fike should have moved out of the way, but unfortunately there really was nowhere he could go in that situation. So just unfortunate timing between those two drivers. It was just such a close race coming to the line. And in that situation, I mean, you can't really blame Jose Gonzalez for sending it in like that. In that situation, you're going to be pulling out all the stops to try and win. But unfortunately, Jose Gonzalez doesn't get back to the top step of the podium at this race, and instead it will go to Ken Copeland. And Joshua Soto takes the lead of the race in 130R on the last lap and holds it through the final chicane as John Casey going to come down to the line.
And we're going to give a very, very late back marker salute to Mr. John Casey. Brings the car home with a little bit of damage. John Casey, you didn't have the greatest race out there, but you still stuck it out. Came home last place. We salute you, sir. Thank you so much for coming out and racing.
Yeah, I was saluting in my chair while you were saying that. I'm not going to lie. So thank you to John Casey for coming out tonight and supporting the series. But here are your race results for tonight. Joshua Soto wins the race on the last lap in the second to last corner there. He takes the win over Robert Hartley in second. Ronnie Coates ends up finishing just behind them in third. Mike Damon fourth after a great recovery race after he spun in 130R. Mitchell Peak there in fifth. Scott Keane in sixth. Rui Coimbra in seventh. Ray Lombardi in eighth. Otis Adams Jr. in ninth. Ken Copeland wins his open class race in the chicane after getting involved with a couple of pro class cars. Is Kenneth Staub in 11th, Eugenio Polici in 12th. Heartbreak for Jose Gonzalez. Jordy Fike, unfortunately, nowhere to go in that situation. Had to send it to the inside or just end up losing the win without having at least tried something. So Jose Gonzalez, second in the open class, 13th overall. Gareth Brocklesby in 14th, Jordy Fike in 15th, Brian Zabelski in 16th, Lee Martin in 17th, Paulo Coimbra in 18th.
Hey, one second here, guys, before you guys continue on with the points. Hey, YKTV, it's been me talking to you this whole race, Adam Thompson. All right, sorry, Alex, continue.
Those aren't the points. Those are the results. But anyways, a little bit further back, Andrew Gilliland is in 19th, Andrew Cossack in 20th, Michael Coates in 21st, Sean Hayes in 22nd, John Casey in 23rd, Camden Hibbett in 24th, Alexander Searle in 25th, Simon Foweather in 26th, Josh Olson in 27th, Greg Mack in 28th, Jerry DiPiero in 29th, Charles Vaccaro in 30th, and I think that should round out your field tonight from Suzuka. And what an entertaining race we got. But Randall, I believe you are on standby with our open class winner, Ken Copeland.
Ken Copeland, what a finish there at the end. I saw you make that outside move there on Jordy Fike to get a car between you and Jose. Tell us about that battle.
Oh, that was a little bit of a nightmare. I was hoping tonight would go a little bit easier considering qualifying, but I decided to make it hard on myself. Super great race, especially after the pit stops, found my groove, just kind of focused on trying to stick with Jose and make life difficult for him. But we had some, we'll call it erratic driving up front. So there's a little bit of fighting with Jordy and one of the other drivers. I forget who it was at this point. But yeah, that last chicane, I'm still pulling clothing out of parts I won't mention on YouTube.
Yeah, well, it was a good race indeed, and really, really exciting finish. But did you have that move planned out? Did you think that that maybe the inside was going to be dangerous there coming into that final chicane? It can always get a little bit hairy there at the end of the race.
No, like honestly, with me missing a race, I was like kind of focusing on points as like position over winning the open class. So I was just kind of try to pressure one of the two. I knew they were going to slow each other up because they were going to be fighting, so I was going to try and take advantage. So when we went through that last turn where they were doubled up, I immediately knew I was going to be just dead in the last chicane because I had to break in order to give them space, and I knew Jose was going to have a run. So I just figured, hey, this is the lane I've got. Let's stuff it and see what happens.
Well, it worked out in your favor. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out after your win tonight?
I mean, I've sent the video. Like, obviously, you guys, I want to thank y'all. I've sent the video link out to a few people, so if they're watching, thank you. If my wife is quietly reading on the couch and hopefully listening for my name, thanks for putting up with me while you read your anime stuffs.
Well, that's congratulations on an awesome win and a great race, and welcome back after your week off. And hopefully, we see you up here again soon.
Yeah, for sure. That's the plan. Thanks, guys.
That was your open class winner, Ken Copeland. And Alex, I believe you have our race winner from the Pro Division in the form of Josh Soto.
And Joshua Soto, it was a very, very sketchy, or not really sketchy, but it was a down to the wire race at the line between you, Robert Hartley, and Ronnie Coates. What were you thinking going into 130R on that last lap?
Oh man, I was just hoping to make it through there. The turn is already sketchy as it is, but going there, full speed with a car by your side is just it's not ideal. But sometimes the opportunity just presents itself, and I was able to come out on top on there.
Yeah, and it was a very eventful race for you throughout the day. And just really, I mean, it was a great race for you all around. You started fifth, and you ended up able to get to the lead. But something I noticed throughout this race is that the cars, you guys as drivers, tend to get split up a lot more throughout this race than really at any other track. So is that something that just happens around this place?
I I have no idea, to be honest. Like, um, I I seen Robert coming up like mid race, and his pace was extremely fast. So I just decided to just let him run because he was running some extremely fast laps, um, and we ended up that made me be able to save fuel, and I was able to come out in front in the front of the pack. But yeah, it was really scattered on this track for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Yeah, everybody was going into the pits at different times.
Yeah, and you were able to get over all of that, and you ended up with the win at the end of the day. Is there anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yes, I want to thank you guys, Slow Motion Broadcasting. You guys do a great job every week. And I want to thank everybody in the league that comes out and races, all the donators, all the sponsors, and I want to thank my friends and my family.
All right, well, congrats on the win tonight. Hopefully, we will see you up here once again from Mosport, which is bound to be an exciting race every time we go there. So good luck there. Hopefully, we'll see you back up in the booth once more.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And that was Joshua Soto, your overall winner tonight from Suzuka and Randall. What a race it was from this iconic racetrack.
Yeah, Robert Hartley had that race pretty well in hand. Like you knew that he was going to have to fight Soto there at the end. He just got a bad run out of the spoon curve, was a little bit wide there on the curb, and set up Josh Soto for the inside move into 130R, and he was able to bring it home. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the Spec-5 World Tour this season is brought to you by the generous donations of many of the drivers within the league and by us, Slow Motion Broadcasting. Slow Motion Broadcasting came to fruition by two iRacing League owners, one of which is Adam Thompson there in our production booth, who found themselves wanting to provide a professional quality broadcast at a price that is approachable to any and all league owners. Some nights more professional than others, apparently. So big or small,
Well-
Slow Motion Broadcasting will work with your league to ensure all your league's broadcasting needs are satisfied. Check us out over at slowmotionbroadcasting.com.
Well, I think some nights are more professional than others. When see, I screwed it up there. I think some nights are more professional than others when I can actually speak the English language properly. So I do apologize. Tonight I messed up a little more often than I should have. But we won't have any upcoming streams for you guys tonight, as Adam Thompson's PC is having a little bit of fun over there. This is why the East Coast is better. I'm just throwing that out there. But I know you're going to pop out of your little booth and you're going to say something about that. I'm just waiting for it as I start the outro. But it was a great race from Suzuka, and it looks like that's all we have for you tonight. My name is Alex Andersen. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Randall McGrew with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck. And this has been Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of Race 4 of Season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour from Suzuka. We'll see you guys next time.